Good morning, guys. I know I just did a video yesterday, but it's something that's been kind of my heart that I need to share, and I've been avoiding talking about things like this because I know how people are. And I don't know if it's someone that's supposed to hear this or if this is some form of therapy for me, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to entitle the video, You Have a Choice. Oh, gosh. Hopefully it don't take too long because it's not even 6 in the morning and I have a lot to do. But anyway, I made a choice, when I was a little girl. I made a promise. And that's what I'm going to call this video, You Have a Choice. Because no matter what, you do have a choice. And I made a choice that I wouldn't be like anyone in my family. Which is ironic because a lot of times when people meet me, they automatically assume that I must have a very strong family structure and I must have been raised by old people because of how respectful and honest I am or the way that I speak. And it's like, no. I made a choice, as a little girl. I made a promise to myself on how I wanted to be. Now, only thing I made was I just wanted to be better. I'm not going to be like that. It wasn't too specific because, of course, I was just a little girl. But like a lot of families, I was treated like a child. You don't matter. Your thoughts don't matter. You take whatever abuse or whatever I give you and be quiet. And I was made so guilty about a lot of things that was out of my control. So I was a very sensitive, emotional child. Every little thing hurt my feelings. I get upset about anybody else's pain, killing bugs. I was really, really sensitive and emotional. And not so much protective of myself, but very protective of my brothers. And I noticed that when I think back, I didn't really defend myself too much. But my brothers, like, I would kill, fight for, the oldest one was born when I was 5. And so pretty much insecure, quiet, and went through a lot of different things. Mother on drugs, prostituting, being moved from different state to where I never got close to anyone in my family. And once I became a teenager, I started to experience a different kind of abuse. And it wasn't so much the abuse that affected me emotionally, it was the people that were allowing it, not only allowing it, covering up, making excuses for it, because to this day, I'm exiled because they're trying to hide this even though this person is dead, and tried to apologize to me a few days before they died. And their mother is still in contact with me. So I pretty much, and because of how my mother was, people were so quick to believe that I was like her, even though I was an honor student. I loved going to school, anything to be away from home, but I didn't go out because I needed to be there to protect my brothers. If I did go somewhere, my brothers went too. That was very important to me. Although I didn't fight as much to protect myself, it was very important for me to protect them, for me to be there for them how I wish someone had been there for me. Had to do everything for myself, starting from getting my records here to California. Oh, baby. Just so I can graduate. And even though I graduated 17, started going to university, started working, it seemed like I had everything together, but I didn't. I started to develop a confidence in myself, an unhealthy confidence in myself. And of course that came from the attention I was getting from guys. After you being beat down emotionally from your family and being told, that you're nothing and you're this and you're that, then you get this certain type of attention. You misconstrue what the attention was actually for. And I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter when I was 18, which a lot of people was like, oh, you really messed up. No. Getting pregnant with my daughter was the best thing that ever happened to me. Just by me being pregnant. It was like, I remember the promise, that I made to a little girl. And that promise was to be better. And I refused to bring a child into any of my family's homes. I refused for her to have I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but refused to go through anything that me and my brothers went through. And I went through a lot during my pregnancy. Ended up in a homeless shelter while pregnant till I got my place. But I've been here in my place going on 5 years, July 3rd of this year. But I was still allowing people to use to take advantage of me. How I ended up in that homeless shelter was because her grandmother on her dad's side, well, you know what? It's not even her fault, but she could have helped. As long as I was working, getting financial aid from school, saw her all the time with her hand out. Didn't have anything left me in that shelter. You think I would have learned, but I continued to allow them to use me, allow my grandmother and my family to dominate things until, not even until, when my daughter was 2, I got into it with their family about who was going to use her on income tax. And that's when I'm like, no, you're not going to use my daughter. You can use me, but you're not going to use my daughter. And that's pretty much when the relationship there failed. So I'm still more protective of my brothers and my daughter than I am myself. Now, since I've never really had any family, any close relatives, and I would never let my daughter be around them because once, when I was a teenager, a cousin told me someone in the family raped her twice but refused to tell me who it was. And I'm like, but you think I should know who to stay away from? And because of all the other bullshit and lies, and I'm like, you wouldn't believe I'm this horrible, ghetto, ignorant person that's running the streets, doing drugs, whatever. That's fine. Just stay away from me and my daughter. So I was alone. I began accepting friends around my area that were nothing like me. I never smoked. I never drank, like I said, or was a straight A student. I'm a science geek, all of that stuff. And by me accepting their abuse, I ended up being put in a situation where I was raped and my son was conceived. During this pregnancy with him is when I grew the most. My relationship with God grew the most. And that's something I've always had a relationship with God ever since I was a little girl. Even though my immediate family I lived with didn't go to church, didn't believe, wouldn't allow me to go. That's something that I always had, which is why that choice I made in the back of my mind as a little girl was always there. And the pregnancy of my son was the hardest emotionally because they found my mother from on the streets. She was back. The person, who was doing what they were doing to me as a teenager or whatever, had died. I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with being stalked. And it's like, oh, what is wrong with me? What am I doing? I was such a nice person. People stole from me. And I really had to sit there and evaluate myself. And then I noticed my daughter, 2 years old. She imitated me a lot. She speaks just as proper as I do. And I'm like, the last thing I want is for her to pick this up and to allow people to use her. How can I expect her life to be different and for her to demand respect and for her to love herself and I don't love myself? How can I be upset at other people treating me wrong or doing bad things to me when I'm treating myself wrong? I'm not, it's like, how can you be mad at a stranger doing you wrong when you're not doing you right? And it's easy to blame childhood experiences or our mistakes that we made to why we give up. But it's like if everybody else broke all their promises to you, why would you break the promise you made to yourself? And that's when I started, shutting stuff down. Of course, I considered abortion, wanting to give my son up for adoption. God told me if I kept my son, he'd take care of everything. Was having trouble paying bills. Of course, I'm not working. I couldn't get county. It was like everything was just crumbling, and he held it together. By the end of that summer, my electricity bill got up to $300. It was hot. I was pregnant. I had the central air on. And when I opened the bill at the mailbox, I'm like, God, I thought you said you were going to take care of this. My very next bill was credited off. I had a negative $17 balance. Still don't know why. Well, I know why, because God told me he was going to take care of everything. Which when people tell me, they doubt God or they don't believe in God, it's like, how dare you? We don't even realize the blessings that he gives us. And we don't even deserve it, to be honest. And he's been there for me through all of my mistakes and through all of my me not believing in him, all of that because of a promise and a relationship that he made with me when I was a little girl. You know, This is when I found God, when I was a little girl. 5 years old, my mother in rehab, but it was ran by a church. A promise that he made, a commitment that he made with this little girl was so strong that this woman who fucked up a lot, oh, and who did who knows what, he kept it. And then, I started cutting a lot of people out, but then I still had that void of being alone, and got into drinking and hanging out. Now I'm hanging out with a different group of people. You would think a better class of people, but it's people who are just as emotionally scarred as I am. But remember, I'm supposed to be better than my family, and that's one thing. Everyone is emotionally scarred and emotionally hurt. They don't know how to deal with it, so they inadvertently pass it on to their children, pass it on, and it goes on and on and on. And that's one thing I'm not trying to do. One thing, I do not want my children emotionally scarred from their childhood, because our emotions are more, people don't realize emotional pain is the worst pain. It affects our behavior, it affects our personality, it affects our decision making skills. People may look at you on the outside, you have a good job, you have a good car, you have a house, you have this, but by you having that emotional pain, you'll kill yourself and everybody else. And so this current pregnancy came out of that situation of me being drunk and hanging out, with a particular person. We got drunk all the time, me and him. And if you notice a pattern, I've grown the most during my pregnancy. It's like I've always had a soft spot for children because of that promise I made, to this little girl in this picture. And I'm hard headed. And it's like God really has to get my attention, because when you become a parent, your actions don't only affect you, it affects them. And even though I've been in my place since I was 19, I was still a kid. I was still a kid. And I feel like during this pregnancy, I've grown the most. Okay, yeah, okay, you keep making the same mistake over and over and over, but it's like, what, fuck that. Fuck what anybody else have to say. You make a choice, you make a promise to yourself, and you keep that promise. You keep that promise until you cannot move, because as long as you're alive and you're breathing, God is giving you a chance to do something. God is giving you a chance to fulfill your prophecy. Now, of course, I'm not totally there yet, but the first step is realizing how you are and how you should be, and beginning the process of bettering yourself. Never mind how your family, is. Never mind what's happened to you. It does not define you as a person. It does not take away from you as a person. Because like I said in the last video, fucked up people are going to do fucked up things. And something about me was like, I know how this person is. I know it. And why am I always so hurt and surprised when they do something fucked up, when that's the kind of person they are? It's like you have to grow and change within yourself. And if you have to be alone because everybody around you is fucked up, then you have to trust in God. And that's what I'm learning, and that's what I'm going through right now. Not being ashamed of the things that have happened to me, because it didn't define me. You want to talk about that? Because I had somebody say that to me before, a guy who I thought I could trust. Well, at least my family didn't rape us. What? Fuck that and them. That's nothing to do with me. That's nothing to do with the kind of person that I am, the kind of person that I've chosen to be. That has to do with something that's wrong with them. And I can't be fought for what someone else did. I can only be fought for what I did. And for the longest, I hurt myself. Because as an adult, we have a choice on who we associate with and what we do. As a kid, you have to take what you can get. But when you're allowing people to hurt you, abuse you, and mistreat you as an adult, that is your fault. The first time it happens, okay, but you have a choice, to love yourself enough to say, look, I don't care if you are family. I'm not going to allow this. I don't care if you are my kid's father or, my kid's mother. I'm not going to allow this, because I love and respect myself. The world may condemn me. The world may hate me. The world may hurt me. But I'm not going to hurt me. That's a choice that I'm going to make. And even if you fall on your face 100 times, as long as you're alive, God is giving you opportunity to do better. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to achieve whatever He has for me to achieve, but I honestly believe that I'm on the right path emotionally, because that's what we have to get together first. Who we are as a person, how we feel about ourselves, and what we want to be. And when we mess up and something gets thrown in our way, don't let that change the ultimate goal. My ultimate goal that I promised myself was to be better than my family. To be, period. Period. Even though I may not be able to get the profession that I originally wanted before I had children, okay. But my goal is to just be better. I know that kind of sounds. That's the only way I can explain it, because that's all I used to think when I was a kid. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be better. I'm going to treat my kids better. I'm going to whatever. And especially by me having a daughter, she has so much self-esteem and confidence in herself. She's a little higher than me. She pretty much, she's a sweetheart, but she demands respect. And I tell her, you don't have to take abuse and mistreatment from anybody. Somebody don't want to deal with you because of what you won't do. Oh well, which is how her family is. We don't want to go to their church. We don't hear from them. Oh well, we'll deal with it. We'll be a loving family. We'll be there for ourselves, so we can be there for each other, because it starts with you. You can't be there for somebody else if you're not there for you. So 6:02. I gotta go get them up. Hopefully you have a good morning, day, or whatever it is. And I know I didn't say everything I wanted to say. I ran in my mind while I was doing my hair, but it's just something that I need to share, because by me speaking it, I'm reinforcing it in myself. And I just need to remember, no matter what the world sees or what the world thinks, I know who I am, and never to give up and continue to be better. That's the ultimate goal. Never give up and strive to be better. We're never going to be perfect, but we can always be, a better version of ourselves. So I'm off to the doctor. Once I have this baby, I probably won't be doing as many videos, but I'll try to stay as positive as I can. I try not to do videos when I'm upset. I have, but hey, it is what it is. Have a good day. Later, gamers.